What's up, guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Kaylee Ogden, I'm a writer, and I am the Vampire Girl. Today we're going to be talking about a Japanese film that came out way back in the far yonder year of 2003. And that film is Moonchild. Moonchild was directed by Takahisa Zize and stars Japanese rock stars GACKT and Hyde, as well as Wang, Taro Yamamoto, Suzumu Terajima, and Zenny Kwok. The screenplay was co-written by GACKT, and he and Hyde also wrote the main theme of the movie. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. This is what it's called. It's a beautiful song. It's on YouTube. Check it out. I absolutely adore it. Also, side tangent. Check out GACKT and Hyde's music. Especially, I lean a little more towards Hyde. His music is a little more my taste. But both of them, chef's kiss, fantastic artists. Go check them out. YouTube is a fantastic tool. Before directing Moonchild, Takahisa Zize was a director of pink films. Pink films in Japan are sort of the softcore, pornographic, just movies dealing about themes of sex and love and sex. While learning more about pink films and the director's background, I really liked this quote. "I try to show relationships. I make films about love. It's not just about the act of having sex, but what leads up to it and what comes after. What are the feelings of the people before, while they do it, and after they did it? It's this development that interests me." Now, I did my research for the film before actually watching it, so I wasn't exactly sure how close to how many themes of pink films were going to be prevalent in Moonchild. And while there is no sex or sexuality in this movie, we can see Takahisa Zize's preference for building these relationships and showing the before, the during, and the after very prevalently in this movie. Let's dig into it. This movie follows 3 young street kids as they grow up and become men in this society that is really not good. Throughout their life, they meet Kei, who is a vampire who takes a strong liking to the group, especially to Sho. The movie follows Sho, his brother Shinji, and their friend Toshi as they try and grow up in this world where everything seems to be out to kill them. Except for Kei. Kei is there to lend a helping hand because he's the best and we love him. Okay? We love him. I am so glad that I got my hands on this movie because it has ranked itself up into being one of my top 10, not only vampire movies of all time, but probably one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time, period. The relationships that are built throughout the film between the 3 boys and bringing Kei in and the characters that we meet a little later in their lives, it's just, you know that it's all going to eventually fall apart, but for right now it's so pure and beautiful and just good, and you know what's gonna happen because that's kind of where all of these kinds of films lead, and you're ready to cry but you don't want to because it's so beautiful and pure now. That was this movie. That was the whole of this movie. It was just so, I really liked the pacing of this movie. It didn't feel like it was doing too much too fast. It just felt like we were seeing the different chapters of these boys' lives, for better and for worse. And we'll talk about that in the spoiler section. The main standouts of the movie are, of course, GACKT and Hyde as Sho and Kei. Their on-screen chemistry is phenomenal. The absolute love and care that their characters have for each other is beautiful, and just, you feel it, and you feel that you just feel that it's, the relationship between Sho and Kei has been built up for decades, even though it's like they're kids and now suddenly they're adults. But that build is there. This movie also has an element of kind of like a crime drama or a gang movie. Doesn't seem like the right kind of like, but I guess it is. It's like kind of like a mafia crime drama film. It's really good. So there's a lot of great action sequences and a lot of really cool gunfights. It's fantastic. And it's I love seeing vampires like dipping their toes into different genres. So seeing a crime vampire movie, A+. You probably guessed it already, but Moonchild, directed by Takahisa Zize, gets a score of 5 out of 5 from me. This movie is amazing, it's emotional, it's exciting, it's beautifully shot, the music is great. Again, that theme by GACKT and Hyde is gorgeous, and I just love it. Go check out this movie. It is available on Amazon. It is definitely worth the watch. Please go check out Moonchild. Okay, spoiler-free people. This is your cue to go check out this movie. It's available on Amazon. I highly recommend it. Please go check this out. Where Moonchild really shines is in the portrayal of the relationships between the characters, and especially the relationship between Sho and Kei. Sho meets Kei from a very young age, and he becomes this almost older brother figure. Now, Sho's actual older brother Shinji really resents Kei for this. He doesn't trust him. He views Kei as the monster that Kei also views him as. Shinji's resentment for Kei could have been what ended up leading to the brothers not entirely splitting up, but distancing from each other. Sho and Toshi are still as close as they ever were. They still run cons together, they still, do robberies and heists together, and Shinji is kind of out of the picture, so it's just Kei, Sho, and Toshi who are now running these heists. The way that Kei has to watch these boys grow up and be in these lifestyles that put them constantly in danger is a great new twist on a very old vampire trope, which is, the loved one you have to watch grow old while you stay eternally young. But in this situation, it's almost like a parent watching their children grow up and make decisions, knowing that they themselves cannot do anything to stop it. I mean, Kei could turn them into vampires. He could give them eternal life, and, he could make sure that they're never in any danger, that they won't die in a gunfight or in a heist gone wrong or anything. But Kei hates his own existence so much that he doesn't want to damn Sho and Toshi and Shinji to that same fate. So it's this conflict about wanting to protect the person that you love versus not wanting to be selfish and letting them make their own decisions. This selfishness is also something that Sho deals with a lot growing up. Through the movie, we watch Sho come up from this young street kid to this powerful gang leader. He wants it all, and he has it all, until his world starts slipping away, and he starts to feel out of control. So he selfishly tries to take everything that he can and just have the things that he wants. And when he realizes what consequences those bring, he goes down this really tragic downward spiral where you know why he's making the choices that he is, and you're there along with Kei just being like, stop! Another standout performance comes from Wang as Tin Chen Sun. He is a Taiwanese immigrant to Malepa, and he has a run-in with Kai and Sho and Toshi during a heist. They kind of arrive at the same time, and they're both there to, Sun is there to take out the gang. Sho and Kei are just there to rob them like they usually do. And then the three of them kind of team up because Sho and Kei have to get Toshi out of there because he's stuck. And they have to get him out and get away, and Sun is there to get revenge for his sister Yi Che, who the gang did some really bad stuff to. So Sun is there for revenge, and him and Sho and Kei just kind of end up teaming up. And then when the years pass, we see that Sun has fallen in with the Taiwanese mafia. He works for this rival gang to Sho's, and we find out that the main reason that he did it was because Mr. Chen, who is the mafia leader, offers protection and really takes care of the Taiwanese population there in Malepa. Now, this movie deals with some racial issues and these problems of immigration, and we see some of that early on with Sho, Toshi, and Shinji. because they are Japanese immigrants to Malepa. Malepa is in China. And then we also see this with Sun and Yi Che and Mr. Chen and the Taiwanese mafia. So they're all just trying to survive in Malepa, and the minority groups of the Japanese and the Taiwanese are kind of being crapped on by the authorities in Malepa. So Sun joins up with Mr. Chen to try and provide for their Taiwanese, for the Taiwanese community there in Malepa, and this puts him at direct conflict with Shou, and it creates this conflict between the two where they're constantly remembering the good times they had before they grew up, before Shou became a powerful leader, and before Sun went to work for Mr. Chen. And we can tell that these two characters want to be together. They want to have that friendship and that relationship that they used to have, but their lives have pulled them apart. And as we come to realize, and as Sun says himself, this is their destiny. Their destiny is to be at odds. Their destiny is to tear each other apart. And the way that it is done is, the buildup is well-paced, it's tragic, it's heartbreaking. I was in tears, I was inconsolable. It just built to this beautiful climax of the film where all of the loose ends, all of the themes of the entire movie just came down to this one beautiful fight between these two former friends. There are also some great small attention to detail moments throughout the film. The first one I noticed was when the kids are still kids. They have this little biscuit tin that they keep the money that they steal in, and when they're kids, it's just a little bit of change and a few money notes. And then we time skip to when they're in their 20s and they still have it, except now it has more money in it because they're pulling off bigger heists and they're more organized. And then when we cut to even later, when Shou is now the big boss, they still have that little biscuit tin that they keep their money in. And I just thought that was so cute. Is that the right word? It was just a very nice through line for seeing their journey and how honestly they haven't changed that much since they were kids. It's just, and then the tin gets dirtier and more dented and worn as the years go on, but they still use it. It's absolutely I don't know if I'd call it heartwarming. It's almost heartbreaking that these boys are still in this position that they were in when they were kids, and nothing's really gotten better. They've just gotten more skilled at pulling these things off. Another attention to detail that I really loved was, again, when they're boys, there's this heist that goes wrong, and the guy that they rob follow them back to their hideout, and he ends up shooting Shinji in the leg. He shot this 11, 12-year-old kid. He deserved to get eaten by Kei, which he did. He got eaten, which was nice. But Shinji still walks with a limp years later. And then in the third time, I guess it's the second time jump, when Shou's the big boss and they're older, the limp is a lot worse because now Shinji is getting older and he's it's arthritic almost. But that attention to detail was just awesome because he wouldn't have gone to a hospital. He was a vagabond orphan Japanese kid in Malepa, so what was he gonna do? Another amazing moment in this movie was we'll call it the middle time slot, when they're all in about their 20s. They meet Yi Che, who is Sun's younger sister, and she is very quiet. She actually is mute by choice. She doesn't talk. She went through a very traumatic thing at the hands of these gang members who Sun, Shou, and Kei wiped out. But she's also an artist, and she, when we first meet her, she's working on this beautiful mural in the park, and it's stunning, and it's a big deal. They unveil it to the city. It's this huge deal. And then when we cut to the third time slot, when Shou is the big boss, The first thing we see is that this mural has been destroyed. It's covered in graffiti. It's faded and chipped. It hasn't been kept up at all. It's just really heartbreaking because we know how much this meant to Yi-Che and how much she means to the whole group. And seeing the mural destroyed is a terrible mirror to how the kids' lives have gone in the last 9 years since she first unveiled the mural. Sho and Sun belong to different gangs now. Sho actually marries Yi-Che. Their relationship had its problems and they're doing okay, but she's torn between this love for her brother and the love for Sho. It's a beautiful visual storytelling device, and I absolutely loved it. Okay, the last moment I want to talk about, it was, like, I knew it was coming, but it was so terribly heartbreaking. So, watching a crime drama, there are certain characters that you know are not going to make it out. And the second that I saw 20-year-old Toshi was the sweet and bubbly and happy-go-lucky and just adorable, always smiling, always being that little brother character. And at the end of the center section of this movie, he gets killed. And I knew it was coming because I'm a writer. I do stuff like that to my readers all the time. You build up this character that is just pure and that is just good, and you make people love them, and then you completely destroy them. So even though I knew it was coming, it was horrible. So Yi-Che is having her mural reveal, and Sho and Sun are there. Kei can't be there because it was during the day. It was nice weather, so he couldn't go out. And Toshi doesn't show up, which worries Sho a little bit. But they're like, he's Toshi. He probably, just got drunk and forgot, or he's scatterbrained and he probably just forgot and is, And then these two rival gang members come up, dragging Toshi along, and they're, telling Sho that you've been in our territory, we don't appreciate it. Like, you and your squad have been screwing with me and my squad, and it's just not acceptable. And as soon as I saw that those two gang members show up to where Toshi worked, I knew it was over. But it didn't make it any easier. And then what just hurts even more is that Kei shows up and he tries to save Toshi, but Kei doesn't eat because he hates being a vampire. So he's not very strong. So he gets a couple of good hits in, and Toshi's able to get away for a minute, and then the two gang members turn to Kei, who is on the ground and weak because he hasn't eaten, and Toshi, fully knowing that his friend is a vampire and that he may not die from, a couple of gunshots, Toshi gets up and runs in front of Kei and takes the bullets for him. Again, fully knowing that Kei is a vampire. He still does that because he knows his friend is in trouble. And he wants to save him. And, it just hurts so bad. And then Kei gets that rageful second wind and completely rips the two gangbangers to shreds. While Kei is doing that, Sho runs over to Toshi, this little brother that he's known all his life, and is holding him while he's dying. And Toshi's like, hey, this morning I got a phone call that the orphanage found my mom, and she's coming to meet me here at the park tomorrow morning. And Sho is just in tears. Yi-Che and Sun are in tears. and Toshi dies in his arms. And then Sho goes to find Kei, and Kei is like lunching on one of the gangbangers, and Sho just keeps screaming at him, Toshi is dead, Toshi is dead. And Kei just like doesn't even look up at him, he doesn't stop eating, and Sho is just like completely distraught. And then, as if this movie hasn't hurt me enough at this point, the next scene is a wide shot of the park the next morning, and a singular woman walking in, looking around, and just like looking like she's waiting for someone. And I was sitting there, tears streaming down my face, going, she's not there, he's not there, he's not gonna be there, he can't meet his mom. This movie was so painful, and I knew it was gonna happen, and it still hurt so bad. But I think Toshi's willingness to sacrifice himself, not only for Sho and Shinji, but for Kei, who again, he knows is a vampire, he knows he's immortal, he knows, but just that willingness to still put himself on the line for Kei leads into Kei's descent in the third section of the movie. Kei has completely like shut himself off. He left Sho and Malepa. He left Malepa entirely, and he's just been on his own. Sho doesn't even know where he is until they are reunited at some point in that third section. But it's just like, how would you deal with that guilt? That So like, you get why Kei longs for death so much. You completely understand, because all the stuff that he's had to go through, just this painful like knowledge that you can't fix it, that you can't help, and that the only way you could help was by potentially making things worse, by making the person you love survive, but at what cost? It's so beautifully done in this movie, and I sobbed through like the whole last 45 minutes of this film. And I want to apologize for it. I want to apologize. The last thing I'll mention, because I could talk about this movie for so long, and I already have, but the last thing I want to mention is this song that keeps coming up through the movie, and it's something that Kei sings a lot to like comfort himself. And he says that the man he was with at the start of the movie, who's named Luca, and who was Kei's like, I don't know if they ever say, no, yes they do. Luca was Kei's sire, so Luca's the one who made Kei into a vampire. Luca taught him that song, and then Luca kills himself to sunlight in the very beginning of the movie, which is tragic and terrible, and I hated it. But it's something that Kei sings to make himself feel better, and in the very last scene of the movie, Sho starts singing that same song, and it's... This movie is just full of those little button moments that's like, so much care was put into telling this story in the best way possible, and being true to these characters and the things that they've gone through and the things that they continue to go through. And the movie doesn't entirely end on a tragic note. There's something about the very, very end of this movie that is so peaceful. It's the most beautiful... something else that I forgot. In the end of the movie, we see that Sho and Yichei's daughter Hana has repainted her mother's mural, and now the word hope is written on the mural as well. And again, sobbing mess. But it was this hope for the future. It was like this new life and this new world was being built upon the pain of the past. We and these boys have had to struggle through 2 hours of pain and heartbreak in order to get to this point, so that the future can be a bright one. And I think that is the most beautiful way this movie could have ended. So, was I sobbing? Yes. Was I satisfied with the ending? So much. It was so good. Thank you guys so much for watching and for hanging out with me this week as I gushed about this movie that I absolutely adore. So definitely check it out. It is on Amazon right now. So what are you waiting for? Until next time, bye guys!